So it was originally called And Then There Were None.
That's the name of one of the movies.
Yeah. So that is the name of the movie. The book, and I think when they originally released it, at least in the UK, they released it under the original / correct title.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. Thanks for explaining it the safer way, Rogan, without
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to have to do that explainer. But anyway, let's get into this show.
Yeah.
As you may have heard, it is just Nick Dahl and I doing a 2-man show. So we're back to the original crew, doing it old school, Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast for this Good Friday. Nick Dahl, how you doing?
Good. Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's a Good Friday at an early day, off from work / school. So I've relaxed a little bit and
nice.
Feeling pretty good. So welcome, dear listener, to Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, the premier flagship and international podcast of LRM Online / the Genreverse network. So we're less international, more like intercontinental. Yeah.
We're still on the same continent, right?
Continental?
Regional? No, wait. Interstate?
Not regional.
Interstate
podcast of LRM Online.
Different time zone podcast.
In my head, I'm imagining like a championship belt from WWE, the interstate belt. You need one of those. That's what I want next time. They're like, hey, which podcast has the most views? Like, I want an interstate belt. So anyway, we've got on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Death on the Nile, which is directed by Kenneth Branagh and stars several stars, to include an interesting digital likeness of Armie Hammer. Because reasons. I'm actually kind of shocked they didn't do that. But anyway, I think it's gonna be fun. Hey, wait. Have you tried to say his name? Have you like practiced? Are you ready for this? Were you ready for this podcast? Like, as I was watching this podcast, Nick, I was like, is he gonna be able to say the detective's name?
Poirot, only the last name.
Okay.
Hercule Poirot? I don't know. One of the guys in the trailers I was talking about in Alamo Draft House, one of the guys who played him pronounced the first name completely incorrectly compared to the other ones they showed.
See, what sucks is like, without anybody else here, you just nailed it. Like, that's it. That's close enough for American tongues and ears.
I couldn't have said
odd
it
as that phrasing is
before seeing the movie last night. I've been like, Perot. Perio.
Ross Perot. Ross Perot's ancestor was a detective? Weird. Couldn't figure out how to be president.
And we gotta get a little Boba Fett too, aren't we?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk some Boba Fett, and we're also gonna talk some news. So you ready to dig into it?
Yeah. Let's dig
deep.
Right. Let's dig deep in there.
Well, service level.
Okay.
Service level. We've got a couple of things coming out. So you want to talk MoviePass. MoviePass is being resurrected from the dead. And if you all didn't know what this was, it was a program that allowed you to, like, in bulk, pay for a monthly subscription fee, and you could go to specific theaters and see whatever movie was playing, right? Like, that was the deal. And then over time, it got chopped down, and there were more restrictions. You could go on these certain days, and
it's only when the moon, cheaper.
Yeah, only when the moon was in a certain phase, and like, it just got weird and strange and more difficult to figure out. And then it shuttered. And apparently, they're just bringing it back. So what's interesting about it is they're bringing back a lot of the engineers and a lot of the same people that worked on it. It's like it is the same company almost. What you got, Nick?
I was gonna say it's even the same guy, like Spikes or whatever. I forgot what his last name is, but it's even the exact same guy gave the presentation and everything. Did you watch the video? I did not watch the video. One of the things, a video I sent out, I'll include it in the post if I remember. Just one of those internet personalities, but he was explaining the entire process and how, like, going cheaper than AMC was their main rival, and kind of rebuked it a little bit. But the final nail in the coffin was they advertised, see Mission Impossible Fallout. Like, they advertised it, yet they didn't have any tickets for it. And this was the debacle at the movie theater when I was working. All like people showed up with their MoviePass. They could to see Fallout. They couldn't see Fallout, even though MoviePass had advertised you could see Fallout on us. and then their stock dropped to $0 the next week, and they were kicked off the market.
It all comes back to Tom Cruise. People like walking in with their movie passes and just like shake him in your faces, like, "Hey, come on, kid, let me in." No,
they were notoriously just, even when they were allowed to go to a movie, this didn't work sometimes. Because how it worked is you would go on an app, pick a movie, they'd put the money on your credit card, or on, it's like a credit card is what they literally look like. And then you would swipe it. But all the time, even for movies that we were allowing it, or when it was allowed for everything, this one lady who had it went to the movies every day. It just wouldn't work sometimes. And then that's why she saw the same movie over and over again. Her name was Donna. Everyone thought she was weird. I liked talking to her because she liked movies a lot. She was a little odd. Like she'd see even like the weirdest movies that, like, you think she'd just see prestige movies, but she'd be like, try to think of an example, like, oh, I don't know, anything stupid. like I'm here for the 6th time to see Jack Reacher 2, or something. It's like, okay, I like seeing the same movie over and over again too, but usually
not that one.
It's like Avengers or Marvel or Star Wars or.
Speaking of which, on a brief tangent, have you watched any of Reacher? You said you did, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm enjoying it. I think the guy they chose, whose name is escaping me right now, from Titans and also Smallville, oddly enough, was a better choice than Tom Cruise. Like, he's massive, and that's like Reacher's thing. Having read the books, I'm very pleased with how this is going so far.
Yeah, I want to watch it. The only reason I haven't yet is because I watched the Tom Cruise ones and I can barely remember those and didn't think those were any good. And the reason I watched those was Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I like the first one. I like actively dislike the second one. Like, the second one was just like, what are you all doing? This is just stupid. But for whatever reason, I really like the first one.
Oh, and going back to the way the old movie pass worked, that's actually what spurned like AMC Stubs and Cinemarks. Like, everyone has a loyalty program, including Alamo Drafthouse probably wouldn't have one today if there was never a movie pass to kind of set the model. Because I'm seeing at least 4 movies. I've already seen 2 movies that we talked about. Oh, I saw 2 movies in a row this week, like 2 days apart, because they don't let you see more than one day. I saw Jackass on Wednesday, and then Death in the Nile, like, which we said we'll be talking about later, yesterday. And then next week we're seeing Uncharted. So it's paid for itself at this point. Though in January I only saw Scream, so it didn't pay for itself. But
terrible. Okay. Well, that should be interesting. I never bought into Movie Pass, which is weird because as much as I go to the movies, oh no, it's not weird. I've never lived in a place that would use it. That's what it is. So like it never made sense for me. I was never in a place where I could take advantage of it.
I was already getting free movies, even if not. I was just skeptical because when they dropped it down to like $10, I was like, this is not going to end well, even before we started, like, chain started. Like, because a certain part, one of the reasons the movie theaters didn't like them is they started to want a cut of the concessions, because they're like, hey, we bring all these people into your theater. And in fact, almost everyone did have Movie Pass before it was a disaster.
Yeah.
And AMC, that's what kind of pissed off AMC, who was the main theater that hated them. So okay. Give some details on the new one.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm curious what has changed that makes this more viable now than before.
I have no idea. I just the technology to earn a pass is what's interesting, I think, or it like tracks your eyes watching ads on your phone or something. I mostly skimmed the article, but
it comes back to Tom Cruise, Minority Report,
or even like facial recognition in any Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah. Well, so the reason I go to Minority Report, I specifically remember the scene of him getting on the train and it was like scanning his eyes.
Yeah. Or even walking to the train.
Right. Yeah.
Like, hello, Anderton. Like, wouldn't you like a vacation to Bermuda?
Selling him stuff. Yep. Exactly that. So we're there. So Tom Cruise, it begins and ends with Tom Cruise. How fantastic.
It all comes back to Cruise.
How crazy is that? Crazy Mapother.
It's a happy episode for me so far.
Well, I got some bad news for you then. Let's take it down a notch. I don't like how excited you are. So I don't know if you saw this, but breaking news, we've got some an end to the Netflix Marvel series. They're being taken down from Netflix as of 1 March. So if the dear listener will recall, in 2018, Netflix canceled Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daredevil, and then shortly thereafter, Jessica Jones and Punisher came. And as of this point, all of the rights to those characters have reverted back to Marvel. And so I'm curious what, if anything, this means. So basically, if you go on the website, if you look at it, it will list on Netflix that these shows are going away on the 1st. So
hope they pop up somewhere. I was going to rewatch Daredevil. Hadn't gotten to it yet after
you better hurry up.
2 of them show up. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to rewatch all of Daredevil that quick. But they used to release them on Blu-ray, which I thought was weird because they really only do that with Stranger Things and the Marvel shows. And I'm like, why would I buy it? I could watch it anytime, forever.
Yeah.
So with Netflix's name on it, I wonder if Disney can't. I mean, they wouldn't put it on Disney Plus, but I wonder if they can put it on Hulu or not. And also, I don't remember if we mentioned it as a story, but there was the news story that Daredevil was actually doing great after Spider-Man No Way Home and Hawkeye. Right. Like it rose back up on the charts briefly.
Yep.
I guess Marvel probably didn't like that.
No, they didn't. And I remember, so we didn't talk about this as a news story, but I think it was Bob Iger a couple of weeks ago said that it was a mistake to license stuff to Netflix, their properties to Netflix. So I think the way he phrased it was, he said something to the effect of, it was like giving WMDs to our enemies or something. Like, I got to look that up because I don't want to misquote him and have the mouse come down on me, although he's not listening.
What else would they put? At the time, they had nowhere else to put them if Marvel wanted to make.
Yeah. Well, they could have put them on ABC. It wouldn't have been as as graphic, but there was a place. They also probably could have put them on Hulu, depending on, by the time they bought Fox.
No one was spending that much money on any of those places.
Yeah.
Like they looked way better than
in
network TV at the time, or even Hulu shows at the time.
Yeah, he said licensing to Netflix is like selling nuclear weapons to a third world country.
Oh God.
It's worse. It's worse.
It's even worse than just saying your enemies.
Yeah, it's worse than what it's so weird that my brain sanitized that statement. Why is Netflix a third world country? They're like the number one streamer. It's anyway.
It's like biggest competition, like Russia or China.
Yeah, but Russia's not a third world country.
No, exactly. It just doesn't like that instead, and actually named the country. Like, because Netflix is like, is probably still the biggest streamer.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it is, but that's a weird phrasing. Anyway, we need to military needs to introduce Bob Iger to Atropia so you can not get in. That's like our mythical made-up place that all the wars take place in. So that way he won't say weird things like this. That should have been its own story, but it's not. And we're moving on. Ready for the next thing?
Yeah.
All right. So we've already talked about MoviePass coming back from the dead, and a better transition would have been to Futurama, because Futurama is also coming back from the dead. So season 8 of Futurama is going to have 20 episodes, and the creator, David X. Cohen and Matt Groening, are coming back, which is kind of exciting, but I'm not a fan of that show that they have on Netflix right now. But anyway, this show is coming to Hulu, and this is the second time that the show has been revived. So Comedy Central brought the show back in 2006 after it had previously been canceled in 2003. And then it finally ended in 2012. So I'm really curious what the impetus was to bring it back now. Most of everyone that is coming back, with one notable exception. Right now, John DiMaggio does not have a deal to return to the series. I think they're hopeful that he will, but they said that he would be recast if not. And so
he denied the original offer. I believe the story is.
Yeah. And I think with the exception of, let's see. So of the people from the cast, Philomar, Katie Seagal.
Honestly, he's like I haven't watched a lot, but he seems like the most important voice to get right.
Yes, he is. And that's the other thing. Like, I'm thinking of like all the people. He's probably the most famous. in terms of voice actors, certainly. Like he has one of those voices, like as soon as you hear it, you're like, that's my fucking John DiMaggio. But anyway, how do you feel about this? Were you a big fan of? No.
I've seen, like I said, I've seen a few episodes and he seems like he's the most important. I will say, I think I know why. It's just right now it's the era of the revival, not even necessarily a lot more seasons, but like a season. Like we got Dexter, Justified's getting a new season. They're just calling them the miniseries. And then on Hulu itself, obviously they brought back Animaniacs and they're doing King of the Hill. Yeah. And Paramount Plus is even bringing back Beavis and Butthead. But I've seen Mike Judge shared the new drawings of them, and it's like Beavis and Butthead in their 40s or 50s. And like one's fat, and like the skinnier guy's like face is sagging and he's wearing glasses. I don't know which one's which. So I at least like that, even though I've never watched that show either. I love King of the Hill though.
I was going to say, what I find of the things that you mentioned, the only one I'm excited about is King of the Hill. Like that was a show that actually deserved an ending that never got one. Futurama had a pretty good ending from what I recall. I enjoyed that last episode, and of anything that is coming back, I think King of the Hill is the one that I would like to see the most. Also, Justified is a weird one to me because I think the ending to that show is perfect. I literally think about that like every month, the ending to that show. That's how much I love that ending. So
I don't think I ever finished King of the Hill just because
I don't remember it having a real ending.
So many seasons. I love it. It's almost one of those shows that gets better every season, honestly. I never felt like there was a drop in quality, unlike The Simpsons or South Park ebbs and flows, I feel like.
Yeah. Yep. So moving on, and in keeping with our, this is sort of similar. So it's a continuation. It's not a bring back. So Deadline is reporting that Ridley Scott and Silka Luisa are going to bring back the Blade Runner series. So this one is going to be entitled Blade Runner 2099. This is going to be set 50 years after 2049. Is that math? Did I just math wrong? Maybe.
I think that's correct.
Yes.
You math's right.
Yes. So this is going to take place after that. And it's all set in the same continuity. But I don't think we know much else other than that. It's going to be a sequel to it. And I think that as a TV series, that it will probably do better than a movie. Certainly, Jammer would agree that as a movie, it was slow and boring. But I do think that mysteries are probably better on television. And if it's anything like...
I think he would say that about the TV series when it comes out too. He complains about so many shows being like, that episode was too long. What's up with these hour-long episodes?
So I think that this could be good. Like if I look at Raised by Wolves, I think that the quality of that is pretty good. And certainly in terms of visual effects, and the story is really interesting. So if they can do something like that, that would be good. The other thing that makes me happy about this is that the same company that produced The Expanse is also behind this, and I really enjoyed The Expanse. So that's a reason for me to be happy. But how do you feel about this? You excited all? You lukewarm? Are you one of those millennials with a phone that Ridley Scott hates and is going to be mad because you don't watch this?
No, I'm going to watch it. I like I mean, I mainly like it for Harrison Ford and then Ryan Gosling, but the universe is fascinating. I don't know. There's a lot to mine there. Like you said, they're detective movies, and you can a TV show, you can really, dig into it. Because I assume it'll be serialized. There's no reason to make it episodic if it's a universe like that. I will say though, as far as futuristic series, I really want them to make Dredd. I was rumored for a while, including they might have included Carl Urban. Netflix talked about it for a little bit. It was like, give me that and set it in the same, even if they don't get Carl Urban, set it in the same rebooted universe. Because that felt like a giant world to explore also, with very little exploration of the judges. And they were just getting into psychic powers and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great movie. I would love to see more from that universe.
Yeah. I would even watch another movie from it.
One of the things I have to look up, and I didn't get a chance to before we podcast, is one of the things I learned from the Deadline article talking about the reboot of this. I didn't know that Noah Hawley was doing an Aliens reinvention like that. I was like, wait, what?
It's a Hulu Plus show or Hulu show.
Crazy. That excites me.
I think The Predator is a movie, right? The one that's not even doesn't even have Predator in the title, and it's like set in like Native American, like before the white man times. I think
before the white man times.
Like I think it's set like
who's doing it?
Like I don't remember. I think it's a movie, but it might even be a direct to Hulu movie or something. But I don't remember it has a name that has like Hunt in it or something. Like, and it doesn't, it's not even, well, they might add, they'll probably get cold feet and call it like Predator and then use the subtitle of what they've been calling it.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna have to look into that. But I think between Legion and Fargo, I'm kind of excited. I have no idea what to expect from this, given what I've seen of Noah Hawley. So that should
wasn't he developing the Alien movie that would have just been a sequel to Aliens and ignore everything else, or was that somebody else?
No, that was Neil
concept art. Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
who's a hit or miss director, very much so. Also, so
agreed. Ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So the other thing happened kind of important this week. We got a really big trailer for the forthcoming Jurassic World. This one being called Jurassic World Dominion. What I find kind of interesting about it is the first two films in this series kind of, I don't want to say ignored, but certainly didn't pay much attention to the original movies. Like things happened and Ian Malcolm was back for the last one, but only in a very super small role.
To talk to the Senate or something.
Yeah, to talk to the Senate, like
give a speech over the top of footage of dinosaurs.
And then in this one, it's like a full-on requel, which I think is crazy, right? So we've got Laura Dern is coming back. We've got who else coming back?
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill's coming back, and
Jeff,
and of course Jeff Goldblum, in addition to Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard
and the little girl.
And is she coming back?
He's in the trailer. Of one scene, like she's like touching one of the dinosaurs. It's the one where one of the tall, long-necked dinosaurs, it's not a brachiosaur, is walking through like a logging company or something. She's in like that scene.
Do you think he saw us? No,
I don't think he's blind.
Fine.
But I hope also,
I hope it eats her. I don't like that child.
I don't think she's gonna be in it a lot. And Dr. Wu's obviously back, but he's been back for all of the movies except for Lost World and JP3, which doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. So you're more into this world, I think, than I am.
No pun intended.
Yes. Definitely not. It didn't even cross my mind. You're absolutely right.
I know. I saw it on your face.
It's like, what? Yes. Talk to me about Jurassic World Dominion. How'd you feel about this trailer? Were you excited? What are you thinking?
I'm still super skeptical because I enjoy them, but neither of the other two are great movies.
Yeah.
They're serviceable, and it's not even the part. I mean, the part you just like with little girl is terrible, but I also feel like the center chunk of Fallen Kingdom is just a generic version of the Lost World, where they have a generic game hunter instead of an interesting game hunter.
Yeah.
And they're on the island, but they're rounding up the dinosaurs to take them off the island, which is the plot of the Lost World. But then I like we've discussed the beginning, love the beginning. And except for the little girl letting the dinosaurs out because they're like her. I love the gothic horror part with the Indoraptor. But I'm really excited. There was that short they released that was really well done with him proving he could do Spielberg type effects. They're promising, I mean, the CGI looks great, but they're promising a few more practical dinos. And it looks way over the top. Like obviously in the trailer, it's been revealed, it was at least rumored that Dotson is going to be in it and has been recast.
Okay.
The one who kind of fucked up everything in the first place by hiring Dennis Nedry to get the embryos. And there's definitely some facility you see in the trailer where they're making more dinosaurs because it's like not that many escaped for him to be like in Venice riding a motorcycle or Rome or whatever, and like escaping the new Velociraptor and running into like two giant carnivores in like the main square. And
yeah,
but I think, and I love all, like, I always get skeptical when they try to mash the old cast with the new one, because it'll still probably still mostly be Chris Pratt, and the other stuff will be more fan servicey. But people have made the comparison online before I even thought of it. And it's like, this is what Last Jedi should have done. We should have, they're not just having all these characters, they're meeting each other. Or not Last Jedi, just the sequel trilogy. And I'm like, it's an interesting comparison. And spoiler alert for a movie that is months old, but Ghostbusters got to do that, even with the deceased actor.
Yeah, I feel like people don't like a thing if it's not what they want.
Yeah.
Right. So had it worked out, then I'm sure people would have been fine with it. But
I love the shot where all of them are together.
Yeah.
And then Chris Pratt, Alan Grant, and I'll just call him Chris Pratt because now, I mean, it's Pratt. Brady or Grady or something. His name doesn't matter. He's Pratt. They're both like, don't move at the same time when the T-Rex shows up. And then Malcolm has this classic, like, why do they always make them bigger?
Why do they always go bigger? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. There'll be awesome action scenes. It'll never be as good as the original or even Lost World, but it'll be fun to see the original cat. Like, those are the parts of the trailer, like where Ellie walks in on Alan, almost does the John Hammond, where she's already in Alan's trailer.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting about the trailer is it looks like DeWanda Wise is going to be playing Kayla, who is Ian Malcolm's daughter.
Oh, so you think that's who she's playing?
I think that's who she is. So they're bringing back, like tying it all together, which is cool. So now you've got like all of the movies mostly kind of sort of represented. So that's cool.
Gotta get back William H. Macy. And then you got your Jurassic Park 3.
I don't know what you're talking about. I remember you saying that it didn't exist.
And Henry Wu does have a cool killer new do. He's got like long hair.
That is so weird. It's kind of weird as someone who has not really liked any of these, the new ones, the Jurassic World movies. I thought this was a good trailer. It certainly did the thing that it was supposed to do. So it looks fun. It looks interesting. And like you said, like I got the nostalgia feels from seeing the old cast. So hopefully they can carry that energy forward and not fuck it up like they did in the last one.
And they're all still really good looking.
They're pretty people.
Yeah, like Laura Dern looks great. And then like got the salt and pepper going on with Sam Neill. And then I don't know, Jeff Goldblum is just Jeff Goldblum. He's just, his personality is so good on like even his own Disney Plus show. Or just like he appears all over the place just being Jeff Goldblum. So.
Just being Jeff Goldblum. That's all right. We're not mad at it. We're not mad.
I like that he's back to being very neurotic, and it's like he's closer to his Jurassic Park version, even though he kind of changed a little bit for the Lost World.
Yeah. So yeah, it could be fun, could be interesting, could also be terrible. If I'd only seen the first 5 minutes of the last Jurassic World, then I would have thought it was amazing. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Man, I am super jaded. I'm ready to move on.
I really like the trailer. I've watched it multiple times, and I'm stoked. But as always, I'll love it because I'm going in with still lowish expectations, especially after the last one. Okay. Like you just have to temper them, like knowing, like kind of with the Star Wars movies. When I get too excited for the sequel trilogy, being like, it's gonna be just as good as the old shit. They're bringing back stormtroopers. You just have to temper it.
It's really
like
hard
you were
for
talking
me to do
about
that with something I love.
Yeah, but I think the last two films have helped me.
Yeah.
Kind of be like, okay, it'll be serviceable at the very least. I'll enjoy watching dinosaurs eat people and Chris Pratt on a motorcycle.
So the weird thing is, for me, there was like, I agree with you, but also there was a plot moment that happened in the last one. So when she released the dinosaurs, I was like, what the? Like, it actually upset me what I was watching. So like, even though I thought it was just okay up until that point, that was the moment where I was like, I hate this. I can't understand why this is happening. And so in this trailer where they said we caused an ecological,
I saw your tweet.
No, there was no we. It's just her.
Well, they still agreed to help. I think I can't remember if it's Laura. It sounds like it could be Laura Dern who says it. No, it can't, but it wouldn't make any sense because Claire, whatever, she's the one who helped them bring the dinosaurs to the mainland.
Yeah. Maybe there's some other ecological disaster that occurs that they're referring to.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It is cool that it ties back to a line from the first film. I've been calling it Domination for months, but it is Dominion, which ties back to an Ian Malcolm line in the lab from the first Jurassic Park.
Yep. So
still, they should have taken my title. Jurassic World War.
Yeah.
Perfect ending title because it's all over the world and there are dinosaurs everywhere.
But maybe it's not a war, right? And I think that's the thing. I think what they're trying to emphasize, like this seems like a thing where there's no way to put the genie back in the bottle. And so it's not a war so much as it is figuring out how to coexist, which is the perfect time for me to plug the interview I did with Patrick Argy this week. We talked about a show that he just did called Evolve. So if you're interested in learning about biology and mimicry and how we can help save the planet, mimicking some of the behaviors and ecological traits and behaviors that animals have adapted over the millions of years they've been here, go check out the interview I did with him on YouTube. I'm actually going to reduce it to audio too, because I know that people just want to hear it instead of watch. Look at my ugly mug and that terrible background like I have right now.
They can't see us.
Damn it, you're right. They can't see us. Anyway.
Luckily for me.
But moving on. Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Move on? All right, let's move on. So as soon as Boba Fett ended, we got a confirmation date of the new Obi-Wan series and a poster. I gotta say, that's not Obi-Wan Kenobi. That is definitely Jesus Christ.
I saw that tweet too.
Walking across like that dude. I don't know. And maybe it is funny. It'd be interesting if that's exactly what they were going for, because but for the lightsaber he has in his hand, that could be Jesus of Nazareth. As he's portrayed by white people.
But Anakin was Jesus, born of a virgin slave.
Do you think they're ever going to explain that?
I thought in continuity they did in one of the books that the Emperor used the Force to impregnate her.
I read something that said that wasn't true.
Okay.
So there was a comic book where they showed that, and then what they explained later was like, no, that was just whoever was talking about it, like imagining. It was something crazy. Like, I'll find it and I'll send it to you, but it's weird.
I kind of don't believe her. Like, I think she did just sleep with the Jedi who stopped on the planet, or at least somebody. Because I think you can have Force-sensitive kids without the Force, right? Otherwise, there wouldn't be any Jedi because they're not allowed to have kids when you're a Jedi. So she slept with somebody in town, and she was feeling embarrassed about it. And she's like, "Oh yeah, like I didn't. He's a virgin birth
baby. What happens in Tatooine stays on Tatooine."
Yeah, maybe making a little extra money on the side as a prostitute.
Wow, you took it way there, Nick. I guess anything's possible.
That makes Phantom Menace more adult, more interesting to me. That's the background story.
The Phantom Menace is syphilis. Anyway, the news we got from the poster is the fact that this series will drop on 25 May. And so we've got Ewan McGregor reprising his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the details that we got about this is the story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan Kenobi faced his greatest defeat, the downfall and corruption of his best friend and Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker, who turned to the dark side as evil Sith Lord Vader. Is that a spoiler? I guess it's not a spoiler. The other bit of news that we got from this is the fact that Rupert Friend is going to be joining the cast that we already knew about, and he's potentially going to be playing an Inquisitor, Grand Inquisitor. So that should be super fun.
Yeah, that was announced and is that more like Clone Wars or Rebels type canon?
Yeah, or Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay, so again, pulling from Filoni type.
You got to
stuff.
watch the things, man.
I'm going to. I've been convinced to watch Clone Wars and stuff after watching
just
Boba Fett.
Just grin and bear those first couple of seasons, and it's worth it.
One of the reasons I have it is I watched the movie, not in theaters.
The movie's terrible.
Isn't it just the first 3 episodes?
No, I don't think so. Movie's not that good. You know what movie is good though? Is the Genndy Tartakovsky cartoon that looks nothing like the Clone Wars. So there was a cartoon that was like,
the drawn one, right?
Yes. Yep. That's it.
I watched
it looks
that
like
one.
Samurai Jack. Yeah, I like that.
I like the animation style at least better on that. I haven't watched enough Clone Wars to compare them. Yeah, it's on Disney Plus.
Is it really? I need to go watch that.
Yeah,
that was good. That was a good show. But anyway, so yeah, I'm still excited for this. I love how close we're getting us. Like they're not wasting very much time at all bringing this to us after Boba Fett. Is there anything that could bring you down about this series? Because what are your expectations like going into this?
Too high.
Yeah, I know, right?
I've enjoyed all the Star Wars shows so far. It's Ewan McGregor. It's only tempered by rumors we've heard about there being a young Luke Skywalker, like a 10-year-old kid, and and I don't know, Hayden Christensen. Like, are they gonna do flashbacks? Is he actually gonna be physically playing Vader? Like,
he might.
I've heard there's flashbacks. And you could even work a young Ahsoka into that and kind of connect it more to the almost, as Jammer explained it, the almost Game of Thrones-esque universe that Mandalorian kicked off.
It'd be very interesting if that's what they were doing with this. And that has actually been my hope, because it would be better if they were using these TV series as a vehicle to just tie up the universe slightly better. And so to your point about having Ahsoka on there and having flashbacks with Anakin, like that would be a great way of bringing all of that cartoon and live action stuff together, is having them actually have a conversation together.
More Filoni stuff even being brought into Obi-Wan show.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not, for me, it's not even just Filoni stuff. I guess the way I think of it is that because Ahsoka is canon, she's such a big deal. She basically became, I don't want to say the main character, but definitely the second lead of the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how they integrate her. And I feel like that would be a great way to do that, is having her play scenes opposite him. But we've got no word that that's actually happened. This is just me pontificating. Yeah. So we'll see. I find it interesting that you were like, I'm out, done with a galaxy far, far away. And they're just like, here, what about some Mando? What about some Boba Fett? What about this Obi-Wan? You want some Joe Kenobi? You want some Joe Kenobi, Nick? And you're just like, fuck it, I'm in.
Yeah. Well, it was mostly bringing Mando in to a show. I was like, it's good. And I was like, ooh.
Your show is good.
Now the other show I like,
but more. It could be better. Just to tie it all together, just to bring it up. You ready to talk some Mando? You ready to jump into this?
Mando?
I'm sorry,
Mando.
It is Mando.
2.5.
It is Mando. That's the joke, right? It is Mando with cameos from Boba Fett.
Even the most recent episode.
Even the most, and
even there is lots of
Jammer's in here, he would be upset. Jammer would be mad if we called it that with him here, but we can do what we want because he's not here.
Ha
ha!
Fuck that guy.
Not showing up. Yeah, hate that guy. Anyway, so we've got the final episode of Boba Fett for season 1. I know there was some talk mostly from Timur Morrison about what he wanted to happen in season 2. There's been no official confirmation of that from anyone, be them from Disney Plus or Lucasfilm or whatever, about a sequel or a season 2 of this happening.
Well, they've never called it a limited series. They call some, like Kenobi's called a limited series, but no. And so I don't know if that's going to happen, but the thing that he was saying was that he wanted to see him hunt down Mace Windu, which is interesting. It makes me wonder if he's saying that out loud, what, if anything, does he know or think about what's happening in this universe? That's
especially
true.
With that character. Like, I find that to be a fascinating tell,
Sam Jackson said he wants to come back.
He said he wants to come back, and maybe he's just talking out his ass, but maybe he knows something.
Yeah, because at first I thought he was just talking out of his ass. I even like retweeted the story and was like Mace Windu is dead, motherfucker. What's one of those deaths? You don't see it. You don't see him get stabbed through like Liam Neeson. He falls. Darth Maul came back from a fall.
That's right. Shit, not just a fall. He got cut in half.
Yeah, he got spider legs or
something. Show me the body. Show me the body.
Show me the body.
Yeah, unless I see it, like I don't believe it.
It's like Marvel.
So, that's right. What do we call that? What do we call that? It irritates people. Game of Thrones rules. But
is
anyway,
that what it is?
That's what it's supposedly called.
But never heard that.
Never heard that? What? You messing with me? You funning with me?
Because I never watched Game of Thrones or paid that much attention. I know that a lot of characters came back from the dead, obviously, but
yeah,
I've always thought of that as a comic thing where it's like the rule is no one ever stays dead except for Uncle Ben and
so
Bruce Wayne's parents, but even that isn't always true.
The way we've interpreted that in television land or movie land is like, unless you actually see the body, they're not dead. They could just as easily come back. So
yeah. Hell, Harrison Ford, Han Solo came back, and they're like in interviews like, "Were you a Force ghost?" And he's like, "I don't
care." But yeah, they there was a period of time where people would say like, "Oh, Game of Thrones rules," and people would be like, "That's been around since before Game of Thrones." Like, I guess
that's what I'm saying.
Sure, whatever. Anyway, similarly, same thing happened with Cobb Vanth, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about
spoilers.
Book of
by the
Boba
way,
Fett.
people.
Whatever,
Yeah.
It's fine. We're gonna spoil it all. Spoiler warning for everything that happened in this last episode, because I feel like it's hard to have a discussion about this. This isn't the main thing that we're reviewing anyway. So, Episode 7, Book of Boba Fett, in the name of honor. So we get the setup where it is Boba Fett and his cadre of folks versus the Pike Syndicate, which anyway, no, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, we get the setup, and the Pikes have taken over the town. They have blown up the casino. They have scared all of Mos Eisley and Mos Espa's denizens into hiding and running away. They've finally revealed aloud that the Pikes were the ones that murdered the Tusken Raiders that Boba Fett had been staying with. We knew that. Like, we just assumed, right?
I actually didn't think about that.
Really? Okay. Interesting. All right. Yeah.
Well,
yes.
I assumed they still did it, but it was because he was like, I'm not going to pay protection for like two groups or whatever. But it definitely makes sense when it was revealed. I wasn't like, that's retconning bullshit. I was like, oh, those bastards.
So yeah, we get to see it all go down this episode. This episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez. There's a lot of consternation on the internet about a couple of things that happened in this episode. Mostly what I'm seeing is a spin shot. Like,
I was watching it. I knew that'd be the number one complaint.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the robot guys like does a spin shot, very Desperado.
Spin shot.
Like, yeah.
And all of it was very Desperado.
Yeah, even like Star Wars, they're always spinning with their lightsabers and they don't need to just because it looks fancier. Yeah. Like,
I don't know. That's a weird hill to die on. Of all of the weird things that have happened in Star Wars, that is a weird hill to die on.
I mean, it's unnecessary, but it looks cool.
Looks cool. It's all right. It's all right to look cool. Without going too deep into the weeds on this episode, I enjoyed where it ended, but I also thought that the pacing wasn't particularly good. We got too many moments where, and I feel like Black Krrsantan was the one that conveyed this the most, where it was like, it looks like they're going to die, and then like all of a sudden something would happen to save them, right? And it happened multiple times throughout the course of this episode. And I feel like just the pacing wasn't good or wasn't set up for what they were trying to do. And it made it seem worse. But ultimately, I liked where some of the stuff that we got, like I liked the reunion with Grogu and Mandalorian. Like that was fun and super cute.
I almost cried. I did cry.
Did you?
I did cry.
Like the noise that he made when he leapt into Mando's arms. I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. I do think it's weird that Luke Skywalker fucking mailed Grogu to Tatooine. He's like, I'm not going back to that fucking dust ball. He's like, I'm not going to fly the ship. Like you can have my astromech, you can fly that thing there.
I don't have any students or anything to build because I have robots doing it for me. I have nothing to do. Returning.
I'm just not fucking going back there, which I find to be hilarious, especially because his lightsaber's buried there. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that where Rey took it and left it? And he's like, I didn't want to go back. Why am I here? But anyway. I also liked that no one saved Boba Fett from Cad Bane. I do wish that we had gotten, so there's that arc that we talked about on the last episode where we see what happens between the two of them. The last episode of our show, we talked about on the last episode of Bring Geek Radio, the podcast, what happened in a lost episode of the Clone Wars where we saw what could have been a resolution between Cad Bane and Boba Fett, certainly thing that set them on different paths. I felt like that moment, not getting to see that, because I think last time we talked about potentially getting a flashback to that or something like that. We didn't get that. And it again seems like another thing, like it's one step removed from not watching the cartoon, right? So there's context that you would lose by not watching the cartoon. This was context that you lost by not only not watching the cartoon, but not knowing that this other deleted stuff was out there. And it's like, fuck, man, you're just two steps out there. And so I feel like for those people, they were missing something. And it still felt kind of hollow. But again, I like that he wasn't saved by anyone and he had to rely on kind of his training.
Yeah, that was
from
cool.
The Tusken Raiders. Yeah.
Tying back to his early season training.
Yeah. And I like the way it happened, right? Because Cobb Vanth said something, or Cad Bane said something like, you can only rely on yourself or something like that. And then that's what caused him to use his Tusken Raider training. Like, no, I'm relying on the training that I got from these people who I loved and cared about, which I liked. So
is Cad Bane dead? Do you think?
I mean,
I know it's a popular character, but it also feels like that's all you really need him for. It's not like he can be in every show or.
I feel like that was played very good, the bad and the ugly / fistful of dollars style. Yeah. Like, I think he's gone. I think he's dead. I think you're right. But you know who's not dead is Cobb Vanth.
At first I thought it was a continuity error because they said someone's in the tank, and I thought he was talking about the Wookiee because he promised the Wookiee he could get in the tank afterwards. But then the Wookiee was in that scene eating the fruit or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I didn't know there was a post-credit sequence.
Yeah.
Until I read about online.
Oh, you had to go back.
So I turned it back on and just got to the end of the episode and watched it.
What'd you think of the episode?
I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I'm kind of watching it with less of a looking for things to criticize lens. Like, Jammer wrote a big bunch of complaints and stuff. And
did he?
I mean, it's not perfect, obviously.
Where are his complaints? Let me find them
on the spoiler channel.
I shall find it.
I didn't even read them all. It was too long of a list. It was like Cam and him and Kyle all talking with each other, like one of those long threads where I'm like, too long to check in on now. But I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. I really loved the Butch Cassidy part where it is the two Mandalorian coming out together and fighting pros. It was really cool to see. Yeah, Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. Just the first they use the mayor's assistant, who's a great character.
Yeah.
As a distraction. I don't know why he didn't read the pad before he went outside though.
That was super weird.
Yeah, because he's reading it and he's like, nothing. I offer you nothing. He's like, don't kill the messenger. But yeah, then they come out in their jetpacks and there's a scene where they're back to back and shooting all the pikes. And apparently Boba Fett has knee missiles, which were cool. And he used this Mando used the Sparrow thing or whatever it's called, the Sparrow blaster. But they were still outmatched until all the help arrived. And then I don't know. My only real complaint with it is that Star Wars really avoids all the time killing off any main characters.
Yeah.
Like people fell that we never met of the the android gang and the
I thought you were talking about the Gamorreans. Like, we know them.
Oh yeah, but I like if only pigs could fly, they'd be all right.
Man, that was, I don't know how we were supposed to feel during that scene, but that was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it was funny. And then there are many times that the Wookiee should have died. Like, so many times they're just shooting him right in the back. Like there are scenes not just where he's saved in time, but he's actually being shot in the back as he's running. Or at first when they attacked him, the ones, because part of the plot is that they all turn rather than staying out of the battle. All the other families, as I call them, like mob families, like betray Boba Fett and start shooting his people who are on patrol in different areas. And, Fennec gets to be really cool. She saves the android kids and at the end takes care of the Pike syndicate leader and hangs the mayor.
Man, so you talk about people not dying, like named characters dying. That was like probably the most gruesome thing I've ever seen in Star Wars.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
just like feet, feet just hanging there. Like she's different than burning alive. Like 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're not going to get that out of frame. Like, oh, okay.
I was shocked.
I feel like somebody at Disney had to be like, hey, what are you doing? It's funny. I'm reading through Jammer's comments. So he said, Boba Fett was a bit frustrating because while I thought it was fun and entertaining, there was a lot of potential left unfulfilled. Incorporating the Cad Bane backstory would have been dope, along with the stuff from Boba Fett's past and making them do less stupid stuff in fights.
I do love that all the scenes where they're running around from the Scorpion droids were dope. It reminded me of the Droidicas.
Yeah, but I think they're supposed to.
Yeah. What else did Jammer say? I think I interrupted you.
Huh? Oh no, I was just then they go into the conversation about the spinning. Like, I like of all the dumb shit that happens in this series, like that didn't bother me that much. I think that as a whole, there are other more problematic things in here than that. But I think as a whole, I enjoyed the series. I think that the Rancor thing was kind of odd.
I was expecting it though. It was odd when then they were trying to kill it.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Not the whole writing in, right? So
I was planted and I forgot about.
Yeah. Good payoff. But then the next part where they're like, yeah, we got to shoot this thing down. Like, what is going on here? Just call the owner.
That was definitely a King Kong moment too.
Yes.
The minute I was watching it, it's climbing up to like the tallest building or whatever in Mos Espa. I was like, oh damn. And then Bando's gonna fly up there.
Yeah.
Almost gets his, like he'll be fine. And then like the thing's chomping down on his helmet, even though it's Beskar. And it's like, oh shit. I was like, surely they won't kill Mando right after reintroducing Grogu. Man. And then Grogu gets to save the day twice using the Force because as Luke said in the last episode, I feel like I'm just reminding him of stuff.
Yeah.
And he already knows all this shit.
What'd you think of Grogu cuddling up with the Rancor?
I loved it.
So cute.
Yeah, it was so cute.
So cute. So cute.
I just wanted to eat him. So cute.
Going back to Luke Skywalker, I'm kind of curious whether or not you think that, given what they're doing with this technology, sometimes it feels like a test run for other stuff. Do you think they would do a Luke Skywalker show or a limited series?
I actually am expecting a Jedi Academy show. That would fill in a few years. I still think when you show me a shot of them together, and if you'd remove the background or something, I would easily be able to pick out the human, not the robot. I mean, the D8 face replacement. But he does look way better than a Mando season 2 finale.
Yeah.
And the voice thing is interesting though. A computer program did the voice, which is we're getting into the territory that George Lucas used to say when making the Phantom Menace, that eventually he wouldn't need actors at all.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Even for a live action movie.
I remember the first time I saw it and didn't think that it looked that bad was in the Tron movie. Tron Legacy.
That was dreadful.
You thought it was terrible? I didn't think it looked that bad.
Because he still had dead. They weren't doing eyes very well back then.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's when I first thought that it had potential.
I thought it had potential with Marvel, one of the Marvel movies, not necessarily even the first time.
Which one?
Who did they DH the first time? Well, they did the head replacement for Skinny Steve Rogers, which looks ridiculous but fits. The Tony Stark one looks weird too, the body versus the head. But like they've done a few really. Nick Fury looks fantastic and is not distracting at all. Younger Michael Douglas is great, but it's also shorter scenes. I would think it's so expensive, and since it doesn't look as good, that they would actually consider getting Sebastian Stan to play Luke Skywalker in a series like that. Because having him in there for like 15 minutes and talking only like 10 lines is one thing. Having him as a main character of the series is like, are we really gonna face replace and computer generate his voice for like a 8 episodes limited series?
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things, like the more you use that technology, the cheaper it has to get, right? So we'll see.
But we'll see. Other things I really liked, I don't know. I guess my favorite part was the reuniting of Grogu and Mando, and the Butch Cassidy scene I referenced already were definitely 2 highlights. The Rancor working together with the Darksaber and all that at the same time was really cool, even though the Darksaber didn't seem to do much damage at all and Grogu still had to save him.
Right. I agree with you. I think for me, the strongest scenes were the pairing of Mando and Boba Fett, like going out and doing the fighting, and also that last battle. I also feel like the not those parts, but the battle generally went on too long.
And a lot of running away.
Pacing. Yeah,
from Scorpion droids.
Droideka, Scorpion droids, same difference.
Droideka 5.0.
Yeah, I wish they had, if they had cut that down by like 10 to 15 minutes.
But you could.
You absolutely could have. It would have been a stronger episode overall, but I was kind of expecting like half, like maybe a third of the episode would be the battle, and then the rest of it would be wrap up. But it was like wrap up was super short, and then the rest of it was all fight, and that was not the right balance.
This is what I expected. In fact, I think they pulled it off better than I expected last week when I mentioned, like, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one episode, considering they've been spending all this time not investing more in the storyline.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it was like a Western battle where it's just like, let's just keep throwing pikes until it feels like you've defeated an entire army.
Yeah, there were a lot of them. But so I guess my last question I would ask you, and then if you have anything else you want to say about this episode of the series, go for it. What grade would you give this series overall?
I almost hate grading Star Wars. I almost just rather say I liked it or I disliked it.
Okay, let's hear it then. You like it overall. Okay.
I really have few complaints now that it's over. Like I said, I'm trying to be about Star Wars in particular. It's almost like Jurassic World, where I'm trying to be less nitpicky, just because it's like, obviously it's never going to be the same. I just enjoy it for being better than what they've been doing recently, even if this isn't as good as Mando until Mando shows up.
Yeah.
And this episode fixed my biggest weakness. My biggest complaint with the show until this episode was the most boring storyline was the present day Boba Fett storyline.
Right.
But between the explosion at the end of the last episode and then this episode, I was like, okay, they wrapped that up nice too. Okay. And the end, Grogu and Mando flying away, and Grogu like knocking the ball until he's like, okay. No. He lets them go really fast, and Grogu's like, ah!
That was awesome.
I'm so excited. I couldn't imagine Mando season 3 without Grogu. So I'm glad they got that done even before starting season 3. They're like, here they are, back together.
Boys are back in town.
Still think it's super greedy of Luke to who had all these connections and then turned to the dark side.
I mean, so we'll see what happens if we get a Luke series and if they'll flesh out any of that stuff. But Danny posted that interest. Who posted it? Was it Danny? The connection between The Last Jedi and this series. Did you see that?
I don't remember.
So someone posted a story where they talked about the connection between The Last Jedi and this was when Luke is talking about the failure of the Jedi and the hubris and things of that nature, that he's actually also talking about himself. There was a part of me that kind of assumed that, just based on,
well, he's the one who kind of caused shit to go down,
right? Like, I feel like you didn't have to go beyond that movie or that series to make that connection. If anything, it deprecates Luke even more. Like, oh, you're like a really big fuck up. Like, you didn't just mess up in that moment. Like, you completely. And so I guess I don't know that I like that theory. But anyway, I'm going to agree with you. Overall, I like the series. And I don't know that I'm curious about what's going to happen next, because to me, the best parts of this series integrated the Mandalorian. So unless you're going to bring back the Mandalorian for every season, I don't know that I'm going to be all that interested in it. And so it's weird.
Someone posted online they would have preferred if the Book of Boba Fett was about Cobb Vanth, whatever, wearing the armor. But I'm like, it's not a title. Like, it's the guy's name.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that way.
I don't feel that way, but I would like to see a lot more of him in the future, and maybe Boba Fett is the place for that.
Because I think generally I agree with you. The flashbacks I really enjoyed. Some of the present day stuff is okay, and then the best present day stuff was anything that integrated the Mandalorian. So that's how I walked away with the series. So they need to find a way, at least for me, to make Boba Fett himself a more interesting character. I kept expecting Fennec Shand to betray him, because she kept saying like, hey, this isn't right, or this isn't how you do this, and this is, and I kind of expected her to go like, you know what, you're just gonna get me killed, and either to leave or something like that. I don't know.
Except for the beginning, like where they meet for the first time in this series, I felt that she's super loyal. Except for that, I feel like, especially just seeing them show up in Mando, when we met them in Mando season 2, I'm like, oh, these guys, like, she seems like almost like Chewbacca, where she's like owes him her life, so it's like a life debt, a Wookiee life death or something going on.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to
they just have conversations with each other. Like, she's also his sounding board, which Lucas didn't have with the prequel trilogy.
I mean, I feel like J.J. Abrams could have used that more.
Yeah. One last thing, going back to the Luke thing. It's like, so does Luke, like, I always imagined lots of, like almost Hogwarts vacations for at least Ben Solo. Like, does he really just take Ben Solo and not let him see his parents for like 15 years at all? Like, no contact with Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Leia?
I feel like the live action series that they're doing now could be what the Clone Wars was to the prequel series, where we get some of those things fleshed out, and so we will get a version of Ben Solo that we kind of understand what happened, and maybe a version of Luke that people understand better why he did what he did. So we'll see.
Oh, and last point. I'm glad the rumor wasn't true about young Han Solo showing up, even if it was de-aged Harrison Ford.
I ask you that
because I just mostly because there's no place for it, like in an episode like this. Like, how are you gonna fit that in?
Heard you needed a spice runner. Here I am. It's me, Han Solo. Solo, because I've got no one. It's just me.
But don't worry, my kid will take
Solo.
My kid will take on my last name. That was me.
He's got no one. So weird. So weird. Anyway, would you like to review a movie now?
Yeah.
All right. We are talking about Death on the Nile, Kenneth Branagh's sequel to Murder on the Orient Express. This film has a 64% from the critics, a 77% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's got a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. The synopsis is as follows. Belgian sleuth Hercule Poirot's Egyptian vacation aboard a glamorous river steamer turns into a terrifying search for a murderer when a picture-perfect couple's idyllic honeymoon is tragically cut short. Nick Dahl, would you like to give your
Spoiler free.
Your non-spoiler Twitter impressions of this film.
Far better than Murder on the Orient Express. That movie was, as I was kind of talking with Jammer on Slack, it wasn't bad and it wasn't good. It was just like meh, to such a point. I can't remember who was killed and who the murderer was after watching it.
Okay.
This one felt far more interesting as a mystery, trying to figure it out, and just like even the and just much more goes on in the second half of the movie, at least, than went on in Murder on the Orient Express. If you know there's more than one death. I don't think that's a spoiler. Like, and they do a much better job of fleshing out the I would say side characters and giving them all motive. And it's actually really interesting why that is done and how Poirot is actually brought in. That's what I'll say.
Okay. My Twitter non-spoiler impressions of this movie were slow burn, picked up in the second half, that made me want to go back and watch Murder on the Orient Express because I haven't seen it.
Oh. Good thing I didn't accidentally spoil it because I don't remember.
Spoilers. It was one of those movies I always wanted to see, and for whatever reason just never got around to it. Like, I just kept forgetting it existed. I don't know if it got delayed or something, but every time I saw that it existed, I was like, oh yeah, that movie does exist. I just never got around.
I think I watched that DVD at my parents' house.
Yeah.
It was like movie day and they picked the movie. And I was like, okay, I meant to see this. I also never saw it at theaters. I'm glad that we saw this one at theaters. Oh, I would have not done it except for the podcast. But it was much better than I expected based on my feelings about Murder on the Orient Express.
Okay.
I will say I did enjoy it, mostly because I even wrote on Twitter before, as I was saying in his seat, it was almost like your Moonfall situation, where it's like I had tempered expectations. I was like, this will hopefully be a serviceable, not boring movie. Yeah. And it was way better. So
it's just it's an interesting thing, because were you bored in the beginning?
I will say it took way too long to get to the murder.
Yeah.
I felt, though it does flesh out all the characters a lot more and better.
Yeah. I think that was an interesting thing to me, that it seemed to do a good job letting you know who all of these people were. And you got to have character moments with a lot more of them than I thought you would. It felt like a book, which is weird. It's not weird given that it is a book, but it's for a movie. We got to spend a lot of time with these individual characters, and it made it slightly more interesting. So I will say, for one of the characters, what was weird to me was that one of the characters looked exactly like Margot Robbie, and I kept looking. I was like, that's not Margot Robbie, but my brain thinks it is. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, there was one of the characters looked just like Daisy Ridley to me for a while, but I'm like, but she was in the last one.
She was in the last one. She back? No, this was oh god, it was Emma Mackey. So she played Jacqueline. So there were scenes where I was like, that she looks exactly like Margot Robbie, and it's very strange, kind of weird. But
you know, the one that surprised me until like halfway through the movie, I'm like, God, this guy with the beard's a really good actor.
Which one?
And then I was like, halfway through the movie, I'm like, that's Russell Brand.
Yeah,
he's actually acting the shit out of this. I don't think I've ever seen him in a drama. Like, he was one of my favorite characters, like as far as the acting, and like, just, I didn't know until halfway through that I was like, that's Russell Brand. Like, this is like, even his personality is closer to like his characters, like, and get him to the group and that kind of stuff. But I was like, holy shit, that was probably the biggest twist in the movie.
So, you know, it's funny. I was looking up Emma Mackey just so I could catch her name correctly. There are pictures of her right next to Margot Robbie. Like, people have posted that up because I guess they think that they also look, that she looks the same. That's funny.
I don't remember which one she is.
She's the she's Armie Hammer's first fiance.
Oh, that's who I'm talking about, who I think looks like Daisy Ridley.
Bit of a difference of opinion here.
Yeah. We both saw her as a different actress, but they were two different actresses.
But but yeah, I really enjoyed the backstory that we got for Hercule Poirot as well.
Yes, the first scene was excellent.
So not only was it just so shot well, it was artistic, it was in black and white. Like sometimes that you watch movies and you're like, man, this director can just direct the shit out of stuff. So that whole opening scene.
Should we go into spoilers?
Yeah, it's just
spoilers, guys.
Let's go. It's a war scene, it's Belgian War, and you get to see a young Kenneth Branagh. Like that was probably the weakest part of it. I didn't think that his de-aging was
really
convincing. Like it was I thought fine.
I'm like, did they even de-age him? He looks younger, but it looks just like Kenneth Branagh.
My impression was that they did. But I thought like my impression of the de-aging like went away very quickly, and you're just kind of engrossed in this scene, and you get to see him as a young soldier and kind of like why he grows the mustache. And you get to
my one joke. I'm like, it's a mustache origin story scene, like you would hate to see in Star Wars, where it's like that's how he got his gun and stuff. But it was such a good scene.
It was a good
showed off his detective skills, like before he was a detective.
Yeah, and I really liked all of that stuff. And you're right, to some degree, it's like, did we need an origin story for the mustache? No. The only thing that I would say about that was I felt like it tied in to at least two other places in the movie.
That
made it make sense. So like at the very end when he's sitting in the bar or club, and then the scene when he's on the boat talking about, was her name Christine?
Whatever.
His first love interest had died. When they zoomed in on him and he's just feeling those feelings, like, man, this dude is directing this movie, he's acting the shit. Like I was so impressed. Like it's weird because it's Kenneth Branagh, but it was just so impressive to see that. And I loved like his interactions with some of the other characters. So like he did such a good job when he was expressing his feelings towards Book throughout the film.
Book towards the end.
Such a fun character. It took me a second to realize where I recognized him from. He's from the woman. It's the woman with the eyes. It's a Netflix series, and it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's got a hell of a twist, but I think it's Behind Her Eyes. That's the name of this show. I enjoy it.
Familiar, but I didn't know. I don't think I have to look him up. Maybe I see him in a small part in a movie or TV show.
Yeah, probably. But that's what I recognized him from, and so it was fun watching him. Was he in the first one?
No,
really.
I don't think so.
That's weird because
way that I couldn't remember. The movie did not make it sound like he was in the first one. He made it sound like they're just friends.
I thought it did. I thought he said something about the train, and I just assumed that they had a relationship.
Maybe I'd have to rewatch the first movie. Maybe that's what I recognized him from, was the first movie. I do love the scenes like where he's like he's also walking in a circle as they're talking to a suspect. That
was fun. I really liked that stuff. I also liked his interactions with Sophie. Oh, I cannot think of her name. It starts with an O. The guitar player. Yeah. He did such a good job of being befuddled when he was talking to her, and I liked her demeanor and attitude. Like it was so I don't know, like some of the characters in this were written so well, and surprisingly I did not expect them to behave and speak in the way that they did. And so I liked her and Letitia Wright and Book and Annette Bening as well. Like I think that they just did such a good job with these characters. I enjoyed watching the characters interact, I think, more than the actual murder mystery. And it's kind of funny that I'm not really saying that much about Wonder Woman. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
I just still don't find her a good actress.
She's fine.
Like She's fine. I mean, it's not like she dragged down the movie. In fact, I think she's way better than this than Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman's also kind of a stoic character to begin with.
Yeah.
And this is a more emotional character. But I don't know. That's the reason I haven't seen Red Notice, is I have no interest in seeing The Rock and Ryan Reynolds go up against
Gal Gadot. It was interesting. It was weird. I think the reason why I say that is because there was such, and maybe this is deliberate, right? Armie Hammer and Gal Gadot seem to have very little chemistry together, and he and McKay did, and so that's probably by design to some respect, but also how much of that has to do with Gal Gadot's general flatness in this movie. And I say that as someone who generally enjoys her, like in the Fast and Furious movies and in the first Wonder Woman and even Batman v Superman, which is not good.
What did you? Oh, go ahead.
No,
you usually ask the questions. So what's the whole Armie? I know Armie Hammer's kind of been canceled, and I know why, but like you were saying something about CGI Armie Hammer.
So I was making a joke. So that is a multi-part joke. The first part of the joke is that in The Social Network, I forgot who directed it. Is it David Soderbergh?
David Fincher.
Fincher. There you go.
Oh, when they put his head on the other guy.
Yeah, just because, for no other reason than just because they could.
Yeah, no, I know. They even had the other guy. The other guy wasn't even told that until like after they shot.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Like, that sucks.
I used to love Armie Hammer. I love Lone Ranger.
I'm trying to remember what the story is. Supposedly there is some cannibalism involved and maybe some inappropriate text messages,
like DMs and stuff.
Yeah, like I don't want to comment on it until I know, until I have read all of the story. I've read bits and pieces of it here and there. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, yeah, that's what the joke was about.
Okay. Because I was first, when they were showing the first dance scene, you see all of her face, and like you don't get Armie Hammer's like, I'm like, are they cutting this so you don't get so there's as least Armie Hammer as possible in this movie? Like you see her face clearly when they're dancing, and they keep cutting to like the back of his head. Sorry, I have a cough today. But then no, that wasn't the case. There's plenty of Armie Hammer in this movie.
Yeah,
with a mustache and a British accent, or at least an attempted British accent.
It's fine. I barely know. Like, I don't know.
It wasn't distracting, but I was like, sometimes I forgot if he actually was a British character or not. I was just like, it's Armie Hammer.
The other thing, so let me ask you this: what did you think of the mystery itself?
I thought it was great, and I loved the complicated resolution, or like the whole plan.
Okay.
And they did a much better job. And at first I was like, how are he's gonna suspect everybody if he knows these two people were here? Like, no, he doesn't, but the audience sees like these two people are together when apparently she shot. These two people are together, like, but they did fumble it up enough that the audience, as the audience member, I couldn't figure it out until closer to the end, because of course I thought of
people
Scream.
Started dying more.
No. Yeah, not even that. It's just when I thought of Scream.
Yes.
Or even Hot Fuzz. It's like, why do we always assume it only is one killer? Like, and then I was kind of like, and then the red paint struck me before that was revealed. Where I was like, oh shit, how do you fake a gunshot?
Right. So
and
it's funny.
I missed the detail about the makeup being missed. Like that's why he stole the red paint, is that the assistant forgot to bring the nail polish.
Yes. I immediately thought the same thing about Scream when I was watching the movie. And the only thing that I didn't know was whether or not the doctor was involved. And so that was the thing that keyed me. I had one too many suspects because I was trying to figure out, after Armie Hammer gets shot in the leg, the doctor either had to not know that he had not actually been shot, or he had to have been lying about it. And so that's the only thing that I got wrong until the end.
But it is one of those things. Actually, again, like Scream, where to seem innocent, he injures himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then again, this predates Scream by quite a bit as far as the book, but
I'm curious if that actually happened.
I don't know the book well enough. Like it almost felt like the World War II scene was added in and wasn't in. The World War I scene probably wasn't in the book, is what it felt like.
Yeah,
it was just kind of tying into the love theme, almost like a James Bond's experience of why he's not actually loving anyone.
Right.
In this case, because it gives him more depth than Sherlock in that way, because Sherlock's history is never explained. It's just that he just is like they both have the point of I have no time for love, it's my cases. But in Poirot's case, that's kind of a lie. Right. He's already had love and been hurt, and is like, fuck that. I'm a smart guy. I don't want to get hurt again. I'm gonna distract myself with these cases and not be a farmer. But because that's one of the things I looked up for us, is I want to know the order of Sherlock Holmes and Poirot, because they're kind of like comparing Sherlock Holmes to House. Like there are enough similarities, not that one's a ripoff of the other, that you're like, which one did come first?
Right.
And I also looked up the books to see if they were like doing them in order or something. And I was like, oh no, there's like so many books here that they're never going to touch, but these are in order, just lots of books in between. They're just picking the ones that have already been hits on the big screen, is what it feels like, which are probably the best selling books of hers.
Yeah, I agree. So do you want to keep talking about it? I feel like, I don't know if we actually want to spoil. I don't know if I want to spoil it. Do you? I don't know if I do.
No, we don't have to. I just found it way more interesting because there was more than one death, and multiple killers. Like we already did kind of spoil that. It's the original one, the Murder on the Orient Express, is just very simple. And I didn't feel like, and I do like, as I mentioned before, I won't spoil it all the way. It's not a coincidence that, because you're like, what are the odds that Poirot would be, here, and there's going to be a murder and stuff. And actually going to the movie, I assumed it was Army Hammer who was going to get murdered, because they don't even show in the trailer who the murder victim is. And I'm like,
I really like that.
Them.
I liked that we didn't know going in. Like I felt like I knew very little going into this about what the mystery could be or who was going to die or anything like that. And was even surprised when we found out who did die. So I liked that. And I agree with you about the depth of the character. Like I as a character movie, like I think they did a really good job with this. So I guess the question I would ask you is two questions. One, so this I am going to ask you. I need a letter grade, and then also, do you want to see more of Hercule Poirot?
I give it a B-.
Okay.
It's a fun watch. I'd never watch it again. I actually would recommend it to like even someone who likes Knives Out, which is obviously modeled after these.
Yeah.
More than anything else, I would say. A new cast every time. It's not like he has to invest. It's not like they're gonna have Daniel Craig investigate the same family with a new murder each episode or movie. Maybe. But that's the smart thing. Like a lot of movies, even our murder mysteries, try to bring back too many characters. Yeah. It's like, no, he's in a completely new environment. It's a sequel because he's in it. And yes, I would watch another, absolutely, with Kenneth Branagh. There's a name I can't say correctly. I
love you got the hard name right.
Well, it's because they say it enough in the movie. In fact, I love when they make fun of him for saying it too often.
Yeah.
They're like, you're just like saying your own name, like you're a vain, petty man. And then
that was a good scene. The scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're vain, petty. Yeah. It's good.
I will say that I am way more excited for something like Knives 2 than I am for. If I had to choose between the two, I'd obviously take the Knives franchise over the Poirot franchise.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting. I didn't think about that.
They do share DNA, especially LeBlanc and Poirot share a lot of DNA. Man, I think they're more similar to each other than LeBlanc is to Sherlock.
I am. So you know what? Here's what makes it unfair. And here's why I would say I would want to see more Hercule. It is because we know him better as a character now. And that's why I would want to see more. I would
That's
want to
true.
see what happened next. And so that's not fair, right? Because Kentucky Fried Detective, we haven't had that time with him. And so maybe in the sequel, if they do go that route and you do get a little bit more of his backstory, then I could fairly judge between the two of them, which I would want to see more of. But as of right now, given what I've seen from this, I would want to see more Poirot.
And that's one of the things I think this does well compared to Murder. I feel like Murder on the Orient Express is exactly what you're explaining for LeBlanc and Knives Out, where
right.
It's like you don't really know anything about him except for he's the world's best detective.
Right.
He's even less cocky in that movie. Like in this one, he's like, there are many great detectives. No, good detectives.
You said average. Did you say average?
Yeah, or something like that. He did say average.
And the other thing, I also liked where this ended up too. Like if they never made another one, this is also a good ending for the series.
That's what I was thinking weird. Too. I feel like an end.
Yeah, like it was so somber. Even like it was surprising to me because usually murder mysteries have a little bit of triumph to them. This didn't feel that way at all. Mm-mm. And it was just super somber. Like that last third of the movie was almost depressing, but it was still well done and I really enjoyed it. It's weird. I don't want to spoil it. But I really enjoyed that. And I liked seeing him at the end in the club and all of that stuff. Like I thought it was really well done. I would definitely watch another one of these, but I also liked where they ended it.
You could set one in between. It might confuse people, but
yeah,
because it did feel like an ending. Like, yeah, I guess maybe they don't expect it to make that much money. And that couldn't have been like a reshoot. The whole script felt very organic and like you really couldn't, nothing was added, nothing was lost. Like we said, even the prequel scene or the black and white scene tied in directly to the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Love. It's a really interesting movie, especially it's almost a good Valentine's Day movie. Because a lot of Alba Drafthouse has showing a lot of Valentine's Day movies and girls trip or even stuff like that where it's like just girl power movies or like Bridesmaids, but it's there was multiple lines from multiple movies they show in that trailer, including 16 Candles, where characters like love is terrible. Like it's great, but it's also pain and this movie is all about what love causes different people to do, and most of the main suspects are suspects because of past loves.
Right.
So
I'm definitely gonna watch this again.
You're convincing me to rewatch it again when it's on streaming somewhere, because they remember one of my first comments is I recommend it, but I wouldn't want to watch it again. But
yeah, that's how I feel about Nightmare Alley. Like I enjoyed it, but I still will not watch it again. This I definitely would like to see again. Which is weird for a mystery, Alley. Right? Like you already know how it ends.
But you can kind of catch more stuff. I feel like I've watched Knives Out at least 5 times.
There were I thought that this was a well done mystery from this perspective. As I was watching it, I could see all of the little things. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really curious, like you said, what else would I pick up? So we'll see. Anything else?
No. Did you give it a letter grade?
Did I? No,
I don't think
I didn't. You're right. So it's weird. I'm vacillating between a B and a B+. I liked it a lot. It's not quite an A. Mostly, and I didn't say why. I felt like and I was going to say this. We talked about, the sets from Mission Impossible. We talked about, how they looked and all this other stuff and shooting real world locations. One of the things that really hurt this movie for me was some of the exterior shots and some of the places they went to looked super artificial.
I couldn't tell.
No?
I mean, that's the thing. I couldn't tell if they were they looked fake, but at the same time, I was like, well, why wouldn't they just go out and shoot? I
don't know.
There was one shot that was definitely CG, and it actually made me queasy the way they did it, where it goes over the pyramid. The pyramid actually looks inverted because of that shape and the lighting. And I was like, what the? This just got trippy. And then it's back to normal. But it was almost like flipping an image for me in my brain.
So it was like every shot, like every panning exterior shot of a building it was all fake, and it was not done well. So, and I know that's not what this movie is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be visual. But at the same time, there were other shots that were so well done, and it was mostly like character
lots
stuff.
of tracking shots too.
Yeah,
especially in the opening scene and on the ship. It would
Yeah.
just track.
Those were good. Like, so it took me out of the movie. So yeah, I'm gonna say B+ though.
I could go B-, B, but I wouldn't go higher than a B.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm surprised that I wasn't sure if you'd like it or not, and I didn't think I would like it going in. And the reviews seem low to me.
They are, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, both of them. The audience score isn't terrible, but like Jackass is like an 80% or something.
That's weird. I don't know. It's weird because as a kid, I watched the Jackass movies, but now I'm like, nah, I'm good.
I still love them. I was one of the movies I was most anticipating.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it wasn't like the epic conclusion, which I guess it's not. I also listened to Johnny Knoxville on Steve-O's podcast, and Steve-O noted this is the first time that Johnny Knoxville hasn't said it'll be the last one they ever do. He just does say it's the last time I'll ever do the bull thing.
Yeah, he probably forgot to because, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it almost fucking killed him. And there's a scene where Steve-O gets knocked unconscious to the point where the snoring unconscious.
Well, you heard that he basically, I don't want to say brain damage because I'm not a doctor, but they said that Johnny Knoxville had some sort of hemorrhaging in his brain.
Oh, in the movie, they just mentioned concussion, broken ribs, and a broken arm.
Yeah.
Because they show him coming out of the hospital.
No, like it's supposed to be pretty bad. I'm trying, like the story I heard him tell, there was some test that the doctor was doing. I think it was about his ability to pay attention. And I think the doctor said that he scored a 17 out of 100 or something like that. So I'm going to look that up while we're.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It just didn't honestly felt like the worst one, even though they probably had the highest budget by now. Just as far as choice of stunts, I never have a problem with seeing them. My sister made this joke that, oh, their dicks are even older in this movie than the past movie. Way more dick stunts than normal. And they already do a bunch of those. And way more cum stuff than normal. I'm not as into those ones, but I'm always into like, bad grandpa type joke or them going down like a lubed up like slide or something and landing in like cactuses, and that's the kind of shit I like. Or the one that gave Steve-O a concussion was really good.
Yeah. So the way that he says it, and this is from a CBR article, it says the stunt sent him to the hospital with broken wrist, broken rib, concussion, and a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, Jesus.
And he said it took a while to recover from that. So whatever the future holds, this is probably my last time with a bull because you can only take so many chances before something forever happens. After the brain hemorrhages and everything, the doctors like, you can never have any more concussions.
Yeah. And Steve-O kind of mentioned that he still likes doing it, but he's not willing to risk his life anymore. And he actually didn't want to do the one that gave him a concussion and knocked him out cold. That was what he didn't want to do.
Did that. I still can't believe he did that.
The bull or the Steve-O?
Yeah,
thing?
the bull.
Yeah. Well, they made a point in the credits to show the first time they did the stunt and then them redoing the stunt. Like bigger or it's like a lot of the same ones, but there's bigger. They improved the wedgie one quite a bit since the original wedgie one.
All I can think of Johnny Knoxville from this Jackass trailer is him being inverted with that bull still under him. I can just think like if he had come down on his neck or something like that, or like, and just
he could die every time he does the bull.
I would rather die than be paralyzed.
Yeah. Well, one of the closest times he came to dying was when he's like riding the rocket, I think in Jackass 2.
Yeah.
And one of the times it goes off and one like the explosives inside shoots out the side inches from like hitting either like his center or even like grazing his side.
Yeah.
And he talks about that as like the closest time he came to death.
Yeah. No, I'm all right.
But yeah, I don't know. I recommend it to Jackass fans, unless you're like my roommate who's a Jackass fan, but really hates the gross out stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's my
Jackass
review. Yeah.
That let's stick in it. Sneaking a Jackass review.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad that Danny isn't here. We could have talked a little bit of Uncharted. Like, I know he gave his thoughts. Actually, here's what I'll do. Let me read those out.
Every time I see the trailer for it, I actually get more excited. And Danny's comments make me more excited because I've seen Uncharted in front of the last 3 movies I've seen in theaters. And as someone who hasn't played the games, I still feel like it's weird that Tom Holland is Nathan Drake. But I do like him, and he has seemed to have good chemistry with Mark Wahlberg in the trailer.
Yeah, he does.
So
I think the question I was going to ask Danny was whether or not one of the scenes we got in the trailer was the last scene of the movie, because the
mustache scene.
The mustache scene. Yep.
It's the origin of the mustache.
Origin of the mustache. Did it 2 times. So of Uncharted, Danny said Uncharted is a lot of fun. Take the fun things from Indie, National Treasure, and even a very few good parts of Tomb Raider, and you have an enjoyable action popcorn film. So that's something I look forward to next week. When we get hopefully the whole crew back, and we'll all talk about it.
Jammer always seems unlikely, even when he thinks he's
Jammer unlikely.
Well, that one week he said he wasn't going to be on, and he was. I think that was last week.
You know, it's like a basketball roster or a baseball roster. You know, we don't know. Maybe we got a deep bench. We'll see. Ready to shut it down?
Shut her down.
Cut the check. All right. Well, dear listener, we appreciate you listening. You can do all the socials. If you like what you heard, you can comment, you can subscribe, you can share. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, whatever you're listening to this on, be it Spotify or Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, go on there and leave a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Also, we've got a Discord. I'm terrible about it. Other people are better, but
me
get on
too.
there and
I did hop on this week for the first time in
I'm
weeks.
so bad with Discord. I'm sorry. But if you guys get on the Discord and tell me how much I suck at not being on Discord, I'll get on Discord.
Well, last week, Danny asked, for me and Danny's show only, he asked a question and someone got on there and answered it.
Someone got on there and answered. So maybe what's the question? Should we ask a question this week? Would that help?
No, I mean, it wasn't like, it was something he's like, Nick and I don't know the answer to this. Like, I didn't have the news. I know what it was. I didn't have the news story in front of me, but I said that when we were talking about Peacemaker, I said it was bigger. It's the biggest streaming series of that week. And he's like, bullshit. Book of Boba Fett is like, first of all, HBO Max isn't everywhere. Everyone watches Star Wars. And then one of our fantastic listeners posted the article that I'd originally seen. Yeah. Zeb.
Thanks,
exactly.
Zeb. Thanks, Zeb. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. But other than that, Nick Dahl, where can you be found?
At Geeky Nick Dahl on Twitter. And then I'm also on Marvel Multiverse Madness, which we haven't shot for a while, podcast for a while, because as we said, we're going to do a full commentary for X-Men Wolverine Origins, and it's difficult for me and Kyle to find the time to basically do between setup and practice, like a 3-hour podcast slot.
What do you guys fucking hate yourselves? What is this? What are you guys doing?
Exactly.
Oh my God. Anyway, you can find me at Sir Jonesy both on Twitter as well as Instagram, and of course right here on Breaking Geek Radio podcast. Folks, as always, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna.
Don't get any on ya.
Mission accomplished, and wherever the fuck Danny would say.
I'm not here.